Ever get that feeling like you're living two separate lives? There's the world of work, responsibilities, all the everyday stuff.
Hmm.
And then there's this other yearning for something deeper, something spiritual.
Right.
It's like these two are constantly pulling you in different directions. But what if maybe there was a way to see it all as one thing?
It's fascinating you bring that up because the wisdom we're exploring today from Vedanta, drawing from the Bhagavad Gita, it directly addresses that very feeling.
Oh, okay.
We're going to really dive into the core ideas of Swami Vidyatmatananda's lectures on work as worship.
Exactly. Swami Vidyatmatananda, yeah. He has this really accessible way of explaining things. And he looks at how our daily actions, like whatever we do, can actually become acts of devotion.
Hmm.
So think of this deep dive as a way to maybe quickly grasp his main insights. For you, listening, the mission here is to pull out the practical wisdom from these talks.
Yeah, the how-to.
Right, how you can shift your perspective so that your work, whatever it is, becomes a form of worship, leading to a more whole and meaningful life.
And the key is, it's more about changing how you see things.
Right, not adding more tasks.
Exactly, rather than adding more to your already full day.
Okay, so where does Swami actually start with this? How does he begin?
Well, he begins by questioning this very division we feel, this split.
Mm-hmm.
Vedanta, he points out, doesn't really see life as neatly separated into worldly and spiritual categories.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and what's particularly interesting is how he reframes what we often consider to be spiritual activities.
Right, I remember that. He makes the point that even something like singing devotional songs, bhajans, something we typically see as purely spiritual,
Mm,
that can become quite worldly if the motivation behind it is just, say, earning a living, or maybe you're jealous of other singers, or you just want applause.
absolutely. It forces you to look at the why.
Yeah, it makes you think about why we do what we do, definitely.
Precisely. And on the flip side, Swami emphasizes that any ordinary activity, could be your job, could be household chores, anything,
Hmm.
it has the potential to become worship.
Hmm.
The real difference isn't the action itself, but the underlying spirit.
The spirit, okay.
It's the intention and the attitude we bring to it
Yeah.
that truly defines it and, well, shapes its outcome.
So whether you're tackling a spreadsheet or, I don't know, folding laundry,
Yeah.
it's less about the task itself and more about what's going on in your mind, what motivates you. For you, our listener, if you're looking to understand this quickly but thoroughly, this is like the crucial first step, right?
Definitely. It sets the stage for how we can actually live this idea.
Okay, so what comes next?
So, building on this, Swami introduces a really powerful concept from the Bhagavad Gita, specifically Chapter 18,
Chapter 18, right.
where Krishna describes Ishwara, which we can understand as the supreme being, the Lord, as the ultimate source and the driving force, the impeller behind all activity. And what's insightful here is how Swami uses the natural world to illustrate this.
He gives these vivid examples, doesn't he? Like the sun rising and setting perfectly on time, the wind constantly blowing.
Yes.
He explains that everything in nature seems to be carrying out its function with this, like, inherent sense of purpose. The sun doesn't just decide to take a day off.
Exactly. It just does its duty. And he connects this to an idea from the Upanishads about this adorable one residing within our hearts, constantly receiving the gifts of our senses.
The gifts of the senses.
Yeah, he uses this beautiful image of our senses and organs of action continuously bringing their offerings to this inner presence. What resonates with you about that image?
It just creates this sense of everything being, well, connected and constantly in motion, doesn't it? And it all originates from this one source.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you reconsider all the everyday stuff, the occurrences you usually just take for granted.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And Swami expands on this by saying that Ishwara is present absolutely everywhere, in every situation, not just in moments we label as good or spiritual.
Okay, everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And then he delves into the Vedantic understanding of Ishwara as both the material cause, like what the universe is actually made of,
Right.
and the efficient cause, the one who makes it happen, the creator, so to speak.
Okay, let's clarify that a bit. So material cause is like the ingredients in a cake, maybe? And the efficient cause is the baker who puts it all together. Is that close?
That's a helpful way to think about it initially, yeah. But Vedanta goes even deeper. It suggests that in the case of the universe, the creator and the material, they aren't separate.
Oh, okay. How does
Yeah.
that work?
Well, to illustrate this more profoundly, Swami uses the analogy of a dream.
A dream, right.
When you dream, you create the entire dream world.
Right.
You sustain everything within it, all the people, the places,
Mm.
and it all dissolves back into you when you wake up. So you are both the dreamer, the efficient cause, and the very stuff the dream is made of the material cause.
Wow. Okay, so Ishwara is like the ultimate dreamer, and the whole universe is the dream. That's a pretty mind-expanding idea. That could really shift how you see everything.
It truly can be.
Yeah.
And from this understanding, Ishwara as the impeller of all activity and the very essence of the universe,
Yeah.
Swami transitions to the concept of work as an offering. This is known as yagna.
Yagna, okay.
He explains that when we recognize Ishwara as the source, our actions can naturally become a form of devotion and offering.
He brings in this really interesting Vedic idea, too, called Madhuvidya, which means what? Essence or honey.
That's right, honey. The idea is that the earth is like honey for all beings. It sustains us.
Yeah.
And then the actions, the karma of all beings is like honey for the earth.
So it's reciprocal.
Exactly. It paints this picture of a beautiful reciprocal relationship built into the very fabric of existence. What's insightful here is the emphasis on mutual contribution. Swami encourages us to just, acknowledge the constant benefits we receive from the universe.
Like what?
Well, the air we breathe, the sunlight, the water that sustains us. I mean, the list is endless, really.
Yeah, true.
He then introduces the idea of a cosmic yagna, a continuous act of giving, where every element contributes to the overall harmony, like a big interconnected system.
And to bring this down to earth, make it practical, he shares that wonderful little story about the chipmunk, remember? Helping to build the bridge for Rama.
Oh, yes, the little chipmunk.
This tiny creature, it couldn't move massive stones like the monkeys could, but it did its part by carrying these tiny grains of sand.
That story beautifully illustrates that it's the spirit of the offering, right? The intention to contribute that truly holds value.
Not just the size of the contribution, not just the scale or the quantum of the work. It highlights that even our seemingly small everyday tasks can become acts of worship when we perform them with this attitude, this feeling of offering and recognizing Ishwara in everything.
This connects perfectly then to the idea of work as a duty,
Right.
And a way of giving back. Swami explains this concept of obligatory duty from the Gita as essentially our way of reciprocating for all the things we constantly receive.
And this prompts a really important question for you, the listener. If you take a moment to really think about it, how many things are you constantly receiving from the world around you? Just stop and consider.
It's probably way more than we realize.
Oh, absolutely. Swami contrasts this awareness with self-centeredness, which he identifies as arising from, basically, ignorance, a lack of understanding of our true nature and this interconnectedness.
So it's not just about doing grand gestures, but about recognizing the inherent support and, well, goodness, that's already flowing our way.
And acting in a way that acknowledges and returns that favor in our own unique way.
Now, how does this shift in perspective actually lead to, personal transformation? What's the mechanism?
Yeah, good question. Swami explains that when we adore or worship the Lord through our actions, it leads to something called siddhi, which can be understood as a form of perfection or fulfillment. And this process, he says, begins with the purification of our minds.
Okay. Purification. What does he mean by that exactly?
What's interesting about his explanation is how he defines it. He describes it as freeing our minds from negative emotions, things like anger, jealousy, greed.
The usual suspects.
Right, which he identifies as the fundamental causes of our unhappiness. It's not about suddenly becoming perfect overnight, but about gradually letting go of the things that cause us suffering.
And how do we know if it's working?
Well, he offers a remarkably simple way to assess our progress. Are we feeling more at ease, more content, happier within ourselves?
Just checking in with ourselves.
Right.
Exactly. He challenges the common tendency we all have to blame external circumstances for our unhappiness.
Oh, yeah.
Pointing out that the root, the seed of unhappiness, lies within us.
He uses that really helpful analogy, doesn't he, of a film and the scenery.
Yes. The external world is like the scenery. Could be beautiful, could be chaotic. And our minds are like the film.
Okay.
If the film itself is damaged or distorted, no matter how beautiful the scenery is, the picture we actually see will be flawed.
So the real work is on our inner film, fixing that first.
Exactly. That's where the focus needs to be. And Swami emphasizes that this inner transformation brings a kind of resilience, an immunity almost, to negative external influences. It allows us to reside in our own natural state of happiness.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about gaining control over our inner landscape, our inner world.
Precisely. Which naturally leads to a different way of looking at success.
Ah, success, folks.
Swami reframes success not as just external achievements, wealth, status, promotions.
The usual metrics.
Right. But as an internal state of self-worth and contentment, real satisfaction.
That sounds good, but how does that square with the world?
Well, what's insightful here is his observation that external success often provides only fleeting satisfaction. It feels good for a bit,
Yeah, temporary high.
because the underlying desires and dissatisfactions of the mind remain untouched. True, lasting success from this viewpoint comes from the inner growth, the inner transformation we achieve through actions performed as worship.
So the internal outcome, that sense of peace and fulfillment that comes from our attitude, is ultimately more significant, more real than any external reward we might receive.
That's the core idea. Now, a really practical question probably comes up for you, listener. How do we actually remember Ishwara, keep this idea in mind, while we're busy with the demands of our work? It's easy to forget.
Yeah, exactly. How do you do that when you're focused on a deadline or a difficult task?
Swami directly addresses this. He explains that it starts with recognizing that our very capacity to act, to perform any task, is itself a form of grace, a gift from Ishwara.
Just the ability to do things.
Just the ability. He draws a distinction between our deliberate human action, our choices,
Okay.
and the more instinctual programmed behaviors of other beings.
Okay.
And he touches on this common misperception we often have of ourselves, this feeling like we're always lacking something, constantly wanting more, this deep sense of inadequacy.
Which drives a lot of our actions, maybe.
It certainly fuels self-centeredness, absolutely. So Swami then offers a really practical approach, consciously cultivating a sense of sufficiency,
Pretending.
or
Nick.
no, not quite pretending, more
Right.
intentionally shifting the motivation behind our actions, moving from a place of needing to take or get something for ourselves to a place of wanting to give or contribute, because we recognize we already have something valuable to offer.
Okay, so shifting from lack to abundance, sort of.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
And he highlights the 3 T's of contribution: treasure, talent, and time.
Treasure, talent, time.
He emphasizes that everyone, absolutely everyone, has something to offer in one or more of these areas, regardless of their financial resources or perceived abilities. It's about identifying what you do have and offering it with the right intention, the spirit of yajna.
That makes it very accessible. What about the tough stuff, though, like dealing with negativity or difficult people at work? That can really drain this feeling.
Yes, a very real challenge. Swami addresses this too. He suggests reframing our understanding of reward when faced with, say, dishonesty from others.
How so?
Focus on the inner satisfaction that comes from acting with integrity yourself, from doing your part as an offering. Don't rely solely on external validation or rewards that might be withheld by others. Your reward is internal.
Finding satisfaction in your own actions.
Exactly. And when it comes to working with those challenging, maybe uncooperative individuals,
Yeah.
he encourages us to try and see the potential unhappiness or insecurity that might be driving their behavior.
See behind the mask, kind of?
Right. And to respond, if possible, with understanding or maybe even sympathy, rather than just resentment or anger. It's a powerful way to safeguard our own inner peace in those situations.
That's a big shift in perspective. Requires practice, I imagine.
Absolutely. It's not easy, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about cultivating compassion and understanding, even in demanding situations. It protects us.
Okay. So let's try and summarize Swami Vidyatatmananda's core insights on work as worship. What are the key takeaways here?
Well, first, our work and our spiritual life don't have to be separate compartments.
Right.
It's the attitude, the spirit we bring to our work that bridges that gap, that transforms it.
Okay. Attitude is key. What else?
Second, Ishwara is the fundamental source, the impeller of all activity. Recognizing this allows our work to become a meaningful offering, a yajna.
Work as offering. Got it.
And third, true and lasting success lies not just in external achievements, but really in the inner contentment, the self-satisfaction that arises from selfless action done as worship.
Inner success over outer rewards. Makes sense.
And for you, our listener, this deep dive really offers a valuable framework, doesn't it? For bringing more purpose and meaning into your everyday life.
Yeah. It feels like a way to feel more connected and maybe fulfilled, not by adding more to your to-do list, which is a relief,
Definitely not.
but by transforming how you approach what you're already doing anyway.
Exactly.
So here's maybe a final thought for you to consider, to mull over. Think about one task you regularly do, something that feels like a chore, or it's just mundane, boring even. How might your experience of doing that task change if you consciously, deliberately approached it as an act of worship? as an offering to something greater, or even just as a way to contribute, to give back.
Yeah, what small shifts in your attitude right there in that moment could perhaps unlock a deeper sense of satisfaction you haven't noticed before?
It's worth exploring, isn't it? We encourage you to try these ideas in your own life and see what resonates, see what happens.